session, let's try to understand what are the 12 principles of Agile Manifesto. We have seen Agile Manifesto, and the Agile is also based on those 12 principles which were developed to help team understand the value of Agile. So we have understood Agile Manifesto in one of the past videos, and now let's try to understand what are the principles behind Agile Manifesto, because that gives us details of, why it is helpful, what we are doing in the Agile, what value is it adding. So Agile Manifesto principles are freely available on the agilemanifesto.org. There are 12 principles of the Agile which are listed there. So we'll talk about each and every principles in detail. So what is the first principle of Agile? In which we say our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So we are talking about how we are keeping our customers satisfied. Customer should always be kept at the center. We have talked about that before making the decision. Why? Because everything is basically organized around that customer. Continuously engaging the customer with a working version of the software, which is also called a product increment every sprint. We have talked about sprints that within a duration of 2 to 4 weeks of sprint, we produce the working software or the product increment for the end customer, wherein we engage them, we understand, and we take their feedback from that sprint review session, which happens at the end of the sprint. That is where we engage customer. We plan to take their feedback, we show them the working software, and not only that, when we take the feedback, we implement that feedback in the upcoming sprint. And then whenever it makes possible, whenever it is feasible, then either within a set of 2 or 3 weeks of sprint, 4 weeks of sprint work, when MVP, the minimum viable product, when it feels that it's desirable, that we can release a combination of the product feature in an MVP that is released to the end customer and a faster ROI is achieved. So engaging the customers early in the game, showing them the working software more often, and getting their feedback is what is covered in the principle number one. Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of the valuable software. Let's try to explore what is principle number two. Welcome change. So, principle number two says that Agile welcome changes in the requirements, even late in the development. So Agile follows these shorter iterations called sprints, which enable the change without much impact. So in waterfall, if you'll have to do the change, we have talked about in one of the past video that no, you'll have to do a change request, get the sign-offs, get the approvals, and then do all the changes in the documentation that you have done, and then do the development. But in the shorter cycles or the shorter iterations which are followed in Agile, which are called sprints, changes becomes much more easy. And the other thing is change is not pushed back, as team is also having a mindset to get customer feedback during sprint review. Team is trained that at the end of the sprint, when we show our working software or the product increment to the end customer during a sprint review, we will get some feedback because customer is seeing whatever you think in the mind and you give a requirement, and when you see the actual system, there can be a difference. Then you will realize that no, I don't need this, or I need some changes in this. So we get this feedback in the shorter iteration. Welcome the change because we get into a habit of showing the working product, get the feedback. If there is some minor modifications or the tweaks required, we do it in the upcoming sprint and show that again back to customer. So we welcome change. And what are the opportunities for getting change? Sprint review is one of the opportunity wherein we get that opportunity to get the direct feedback from customer, do the changes. And it's not only that. When, let's say, I've talked about MVP, which I'll talk in detail in one of the later videos, the minimum viable product. When it makes sense, a product owner release that minimum viable product to the end customer. It may be a combination of one sprint or n number of sprint, whenever it makes sense. So after releasing the product to our MVP to production, we we see that no what value have been added or what customer is struggling to. So that is also an opportunity to get a change to make the product better. What are the other opportunities for getting a change or understanding a change? Product owner continuously engaged with the end customer for the betterment of the product. They keep on talking to them, and even after having these sprint review, showing them working product owner is one person who is continuously in touch with the end customer to make the product better. That is also another opportunity of the change. That's the reason we say product roadmap is a living document. It's not a frozen requirement signed off by the customer as we do that in the waterfall. It's a living document. Why it's called a living document? Because as and when product owner get the opportunity or some changes for the betterment of the product from the end customer, they keep on accommodating them and prioritizing them in the product backlog or a product roadmap. So product roadmap is a living document. Scope can be added to the roadmap. Scope can be deprioritized, prioritized in the product roadmap, and that's the reason it's called a living document. When more is learned about the product, then more is added to the product backlog. An example of that would be that consider a scenario like this we are having today, COVID. Retailers like Walmart, Home Depot, which used to engage the customer in their shop. For example, let's take a you want to do some renovation in your house. You used to go to Home Depot. You used to talk with the employees there to understand, and they used to guide us, how it can make better. But now if we freeze this requirement, this will happen that way. What would happen if COVID comes? So organizations are trying to explore ways of how can we bring in virtual connect with the customer. If customer cannot come to the shop to discuss about or to gain experience from our experienced professional that how this modification in their house can be done, then probably and the end customer can think of having something virtual. So virtually connect with the customer and give them all the ideas, and still the business can run the way that it's running. So that's also another opportunity for the change. There are enormous opportunities for the change, but until we have a mindset of welcoming the change in place of pushing back the change, that will not work. So in Agile, we welcome change and we bring in the value to the end customer. Let's try to explore the principle number 3. Deliver frequently. The principle number 3 says deliver working software frequently from a couple of weeks to maximum 4 weeks with a preference to shorter time scale. As we say that sprint is a duration of 2 to 4 weeks. That's based on this principle that though it can go up to 4 weeks, but our preference is to have a shorter time scale. Shorter the better. And it cannot be less than 2 weeks because then it doesn't make sense to bring all the team together and create a working software. So preference to a shorter time scale, which is 2 weeks, and the maximum it can go up to 4 weeks. As we have also discussed in the past slides that how do we deliver the working software frequently. At the end of each sprint, we are delivering a working software or a product increment to the end customer. Delivering means we are showing them what we have built and we are getting the feedback. So delivery in production, as we have discussed, because there are questions about that. No, oh, so we have created a working product or a product increment. At the end of the sprint, we are showing it to the customer. Are we always releasing it to production? The answer is ambiguous because are we always releasing? It may be yes or no. When do we release it to production? That is where the product owner comes into picture. The product owner is a person who understands that when it makes sense to release it to the production. And it also, we club the product increment functionality together in a minimum viable product called MVP, wherein based on that MVP, we plan to release the product to the end customer in production. It can be, yes, every sprint if it makes sense, or it can be a combination of some sprints when it makes sense. So that's the third principle of Agile Manifesto. Let's try to explore the fourth principle. Work together. Business people and development team work together daily throughout the project in a collaborative environment. We have talked about working together and how does it help the team, because it's not that you have taken the requirement, customer is not engaged, and you're working alone and in the set of requirement, and you are also responsible if something goes wrong in the requirement or the development. No, throughout all these scrum ceremonies, development team and business work together and not disconnected, just like waterfall. Some of the example, sprint grooming is one of the ceremony. I'll talk about details about this sprint grooming later, but the product owner works with the team to explain them details of story, which is functionality from the business perspective, clarify their doubts related to the functionality. And it's not only that, he also understands from the team whether it's technically feasible or there are better ways to implement them technically. And accordingly, he can inspect and adapt. It's not only that he needs to tell what needs to be built, but depending on team's feedback about the technical feasibility, he can also adapt. He can also change the story to make it better. So we learn from each other. Sprint planning is another ceremonies wherein the business and development should work together to plan the upcoming sprint, to prioritize the upcoming sprint, to discuss and brainstorm together. DSU, daily stand up, where PO is available to answer team question related to functionality. That is where we are another example of business and development team working together. Sprint review, as we have discussed in detail, it's an opportunity wherein all these stakeholders get together and review the working software together and take the constructive feedback. There is no finger pointing that why you have not done that. Yes, we are showing you what you have done in the 2 to 4 weeks of sprint, and if there are improvement opportunities, we are collecting the feedback and working together. That's another opportunity wherein business and development teams are working together. Sprint retrospective. When we conduct this ceremony of sprint retrospective, we try to identify the better ways of doing the work. It's not only for the development team, the business or the product owner who represents the business is engaged in that ceremony as well. He tried to understand what are the pain areas, what the team felt, how we can make it better. And he's engaged with the team to make the product development better for the upcoming sprint. Product owner owns the backlog and he is the single decision maker for the product, and he represents the business and their team decisions. So if we are wondering that how we are taking in this example that how business team is working together with the development team, it's only the product owner, because product owner is a person who is representing the business and he is available and working throughout the sprint, throughout the all the ceremonies that we have discussed, to bring in the value. And day to day working together, bring in the value, we solve those problems immediately, we understand the pain areas, we understand better ways of working on the product increment as per the technical feasibility and the discussions and the brainstorming around the team. So let's try to understand what is the next principle, which is about trust and support. Trust and support. Principle number 5. If build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them to get the job done. Perfect example of when we compared something related to control versus self-organized team, which is basically waterfall versus agile. Get rid of this control mindset, controlling mindset, or a micromanagement mindset should go away. Let the team be self-organized. Team is the one who pulls the work in their bucket after fully understanding the goal and why it is required. What value is it adding to the customer? What is the business benefit that no it will bring to the customer? And if they understand all of that, it transfers the ownership and accountability to the team. They become more accountable. They understand why this value is produced, and they become a self-organized team. In place of telling them that no, what you need to be doing as per my direction, which is a control mindset, let them pull the work. So it's a push versus pull mentality. Teams decisions are also respected because agreements are made, and some of the agreements are made for the to maintain trust and clear communication. Team rules are made. DOR, definition of ready, is made. Definition of done is made. DOD. Why these decisions are captured in either in team rules or definition of ready or definition of done, because that's where we make an agreement, so that later on this finger pointing should not happen. We have a common set of understanding between business and within the development team, that how we'll work on, and these agreements really help to get the trust from each and everyone and get the respect that everyone desires. Team is also not questioned about the productivity in agile. It's not that no, this was estimated this much, and why are you taking more time? Because it's a transparent communication. If we are getting into a blocker in the middle of the sprint, and if a story was planned for 5 story points, and if it is not done or if it is taking more time, everybody understands why. Because there are frequent connect between the business and the development team. We are discussing everything. Everything is transparent, why it's taking time, why it's blocked, what are the problems team is facing. So team is not questioned on productivity or estimates or not meeting the objective, as long as everyone in the same page for impediments faced and what everyone did to resolve the impediments. Teams view and improvement items are listened, captured, and worked upon during the sprint retrospective. Hence, they feel respected, because in the retrospective meeting we also talk about how can we make it better, what did we do wrong, or what can we improve. So when team see that no, my suggestions or my retrospective improvement items are being listened and are acted upon, they feel respected. That will also bring a respect and trust culture within the team. Another example of that is during DSUs. Team is there to help each other. They let everyone know about the impediments being faced. So it's a transparent communication, and hence they create a culture of transparency, teamwork, and respect. Everyone knows that if something is not done, get done. Why? So there is no micromanagement or control or questions asked later, that no, why you are not able to complete the work assigned, or why we were not able to do the involve the productivity which was assigned to the team. Team is overall involved in each and every ceremony, starting from sprint planning, TSUs, sprint grooming, sprint retrospective, everything. So they feel a part of the product, that inculcate more ownership in them. So trust and support, build projects around motivated individuals, give them the environment and support they need, and trust them. More importantly, trust them to get the job done. This is inculcated in the team over a period of time, and when it's done, we get the valuable product outside. So let's try to explore the principle number 6, which is around face-to-face communication. The most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. During this COVID time, it has been asked so many times that what is happening to the face-to-face conversation. So we should not think face-to-face conversation only sitting next to each other. What we're trying to say is that it should not be built on emails, messages, because face-to-face communications are preferred for all these ceremonies and helps everyone build connects. Sending an email or instant message to someone which they may or may not understand, and they may or may not understand the emotions along with that message, which can cause communication gap, which can cause trust issues. And if you talk to the same person either face to face or in a video conversation, in this COVID like situation, video conversation is a face to face communication. If I'm telling you something through my message or email, it may not sound the way that I want to tell you, because emotions are not attached. When we talk to someone, the same message can have a different effect or can have a same different feeling within the team. So it's preferred that we just talk to each other. And if we are not able to meet face to face, especially during the COVID crisis, preference is switch on your video, see each other, talk to each other. It makes difference. Try it. Leadership team. How is leadership team connecting? It makes a difference. Leadership team should have regular video connects or face to face connects with the team at regular intervals. Try to connect to the team one to one. Try to understand what's going on. Try to get the feedback and try to get the feedback and get that incorporated, so that team can think that no, I'm being listened to. When they feel respected, they take the ownership to make you successful. It's preferred, it's a preference or my recommendation that try to do all the ceremonies on the video on. We are talking about a sprint retrospective. Try to do it with all the videos on. In the COVID situation, if we can't meet face to face, at least try to see each other, try to feel the emotions. It makes the difference. Try it. Principle number 7, which is around working software. Working software is a primary measure of progress, not the documentation. If we end up only being documentation at the end of, let's say 4 months long requirement phase in waterfall model, what is the actual value we have produced on ground for the end customer? So working software is the primary measure of progress, nothing else. Status reports being floated around, they are not the primary measure of progress, as they become obsolete the moment they are created. Because people may have understanding that if I have to know the progress, rely on a status report. But it is also good to understand the status report is based on facts. I understand. But the moment they are created, they become obsolete because things have moved on. So primary measure of progress, if you really want to see the progress, of course, the working software or else transparency. Talk about those agile tools. Show the direct measure or the progress directly from those agile tools, not from the obsolete status report, which gets obsolete the moment that they created. If I've created a report today and you are seeing that tomorrow, that means there is a 12 hours of gap or 24 hours of gap. It became obsolete. So that's not the primary measure of progress. Elimination of status reports and relying on working software at the end of the sprint review is the key to success, and that is the source of truth which cannot be cautioned. Because the source of truth, working software, and is seeing the working software, what is the need of status report? Of course, if it is required at a higher leadership level, we produce some of these status reports saying that how sprint ceremonies are working. That's the reason sprint ceremonies are crafted, so that there is no need of any other meetings or the status report. We are in constant touch with the business team through all these sprint ceremonies, so that we try to eliminate the dependency or too much heavy dependency on these obsolete status reports. That's basically where working software keeps in handy, and working software is the primary measure of the progress, plays the role there. Principle number 8, sustained development. Agile process promotes sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and the users should able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Pace is required to make sure that you are able to run a marathon, but in a shorter sprints, shorter iterations. We come up with this product increment, but it's not only a one-time activity. Why we are talking about the constant pace, that everybody feels happy. Oh wow, this is really great. That within 2 to 4 weeks, a working product demo is getting created and showed to us. We are giving feedback. Team is respecting the feedback, open for the feedback. No push, no changes, no pushback whatsoever. But that cannot sustain if we sprint over sprint. We are not adopting the same process. So we are talking about to maintain that constant pace, sprint over sprint, to come into a habit of showing the working product demo. And team gets time to inspect and retrospect after every sprint to become better. So this constant pace, what you're trying to do is think of it as a marathon that you're running. So for the first mile you ran, you learn from the first mile that what is making you either slow or fatigue during the first mile. You learn from that first mile and try to cover that second mile better. And think of, if marathons are done that way, when you reach to the 26th mile, you have learned from all the 25 miles that you have run and you have tried to make your 26th mile further better. So it's a constant inspect and adapt, which we do after every mile or every sprint, wherein we see that how we can become better. So as and when you progress or maintain this constant pace, you become better over a period of time. Team is not pushed for doing more work, but they pulls the work as per the available capacity, hence reduces mental pressure, and team is able to sustain that development. If you are asked to run a 100-meter sprint, you can run with full force. But if you're asked to run a marathon, and this product development is like a marathon, you'll have to run for a longer time. So let's not get tired during the first sprint. That's the reason we are not pushed for more work. Team pulls the work as per the available capacity. Hence, there is no mental pressure of running too fast. Each sprint, some product increment is coming out as an output of the sprint and is a fact of producing outputs at constant pace. So it's suggested that Agile promotes sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and the users should be able to maintain a constant pace. Let's try to explore principle number 9: continuous attention to technical excellence and good design emphasis agility. It is not like waterfall that architecture and design once created in the design phase is kept same throughout. No, with each in agile, architecture and design also keeps evolving at the product roadmap and the product evolves. So we are not basically freezing the architecture and design in the earlier phase, but we learn and adapt as per the industry standard, as per the requirement of the product, and we keep on evolving the agile architecture and design. There is no separate sprint only for creating the architecture and design. This is something, being asked a lot of times. Every sprint, the output is the workable, working product, working software, product increment should be created. It may happen that during initial sprint, 60% of work is being done for agile and for architecture and design, but still, expectation is that at the end of the sprint, you are able to produce a working product, even if it's small part of the working product or a flow or end-to-end flow, but that should be an output each sprint, focusing on doing just the essential design that suffix the functionality. That's the mentality, because questions are being asked in the agile forums that no, what if we have not thought through about the architecture and design. You think through that, but you basically focusing on that essential design that suffix the functionality for the sprint. Overall architecture, it should align, but focus on detailed design of that particular functionality. And then we learn and adapt. As and when we move forward, there are some adjustment being made in the architecture or design, and that is where how we accept and encourage that. Principle number 10: maintain simplicity. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. A lot of time question is asked, and this is one of the principle which is not clear to everyone. What is this amount of work not done, and why do you want to maximize the amount of work not done? Think about it as a lean agile mindset. Find out those activities which doesn't add value or which adds less value, and try to maximize those activities so that you can get rid of them. Try to find out those activities which do not add value and maximize those activities and then get rid of them. So you're focusing on only on those activity which produce the value, the actual value for them. We have talked about a lot of things earlier, right? A lot of status reports or a lot of documentations. Find out those. I am not against documentation. I'm not against status report, but find out those activity which doesn't add value and try to maximize those activity and get rid of them. So you are left with only those activity which are priority for the customer, which is adding more value to the product. And why it is called an art? It is called an art for a purpose, that the art to find out what are those activity which are not adding value and eliminate that waste is called a lean mindset. That's the reason it's called an art. Keep the program simple, organized around the value and flow. So for sometimes what may happen is that no, gold plating. Gold plating is a concept that no, when a story is given, you try to do more. Developers are tempted to do more and show cool things. But what would happen? Are you trying to keep it simple and organized around the value and the flow given to you, or you are trying to make it cool, make it look cool? Is it actually being asked? Is it required? Cool should not be confused with making it better, but no gold plating. Try to keep your program simple. Avoid low value work. cutting our waste, which is needless effort whenever possible. Product roadmap, identify must have and good to have, and then try to avoid or delay those features which are good to have. First, if all the must have been implemented, I can focus on good to have. But think of it, if I have not identified in my product roadmap what are must have features and what are good to have features, then I may be working on some good to have features when must have not even been thought about. So at least try to understand, try to, that is where prioritization also comes in. Make it simple. When all the must have are implemented, and if good to have makes sense and adding value to the customer, we can pick up those. But prioritization is important. The more you maximize the work not done bucket, the closer you get to nailing down the few truly valuable features that deliver the highest business value. Plans and status report are not there in the agile process. Consumes a lot of effort and not add that much value in the game plan. Yes, we plan, but not at a bigger scale. We plan for the sprint. We plan for, let's say, two sprint. Of course, the question being asked, do you only plan for the sprint? Yes, we plan the stories only for the sprint, but we plan the sprint grooming or the story being groomed for upcoming, let's say, n plus one sprint, n plus two sprint. We do that planning. Excessive documentation is another example of that. Just create just enough documentation. So try to find out that work which doesn't add a lot of value. Try to maximize that work and either deprioritize it or get rid of it so that we are focusing on the maximum value for the end customer. Self-organizing team. The best architectures, requirement, and design emerge from self-organizing teams. What is a self? The focus here is not on the best architecture, requirement, or the design. The focus here is on the self-organized team. As we have talked about control versus self-organized team. Try to shift your focus from control to a self-organized team. When they are self-organized team, they produce the best architecture in the world, the best requirement and the design from in the world. When not controlled, when they are set free, they it builds the ownership and accountability to developer to to think about the better architecture and design. Gamba. Gamba is a Gamba is a term which is used wherein idea is that go and see where work is actually done. So try to send your individuals to go and see actually where work is getting done so that they can see that, oh, this is what is happening, I can see it now, in place of just visualizing by reading the requirements. Get right people in the team to make the team self-organized. It is very important that know how we are forming the team, because key here is a self-organized team. So cross-functional team, mix of technical skills, diversity. Think of when you're forming the team about all such things, that your team is cross-functional, have the people from all discipline, capable of handling everything for the product development, because this team should be capable of handling anything and everything for the product development. Hence cross-functional team, mix of technical skills. And if the skills are lacking, as we have discussed earlier, team work together to upskill their skills for their team. They work as a family together. Domain expertise availability across geography. So we have talked about some customization of the agile, wherein we talked about that if it's a multi-geography product development, bring in the concept of the location independent agile, bring in the concept of the product proxy product owner, which are available to answer the question upfront in that geography. Let's focus on the last principle, which is reflect and adjust. At regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. Key point here is at a regular interval. We are talking about a cadence here, that at regular interval, sprint by sprint, we are conducting those retrospective. It should happen each sprint. So that's the key here is a regular interval. Reflects, which is a pillar of empiricism. Adjust, another pillar of empiricism. So reflect and adjust. So key points here in this principle is regular intervals, reflects, adjust. Sprint retrospective is a perfect example of reflection and adjusting things. Most of the times we are we are seeing that, no, sprint retrospective is sometimes taken as non-efficient ceremony. Either it's not done, or if it is conducted, it's not conducted right way. It's not conducted efficiently, effectively. And why? Some of the problem is because that environment of accepting the feedback is not there. So it's up to us as the team, as the scrum master, as the product owner, as the leadership to create that environment of trust, openness, courage. So trust is not created. If trust is not created, people in the individual will team will not open up and speak up of what they feel in the sprint retrospective. That's one of the reasons that know why sprint retrospectives are not efficient. If they are, if there is no openness, they are not open to speak. They can talk about the problems with their peer, but not in the sprint retrospective. They should have, or a leader also should build a courage to speak. They should have courage to speak in that. So first, most important for this reflect and adjust to happen, or the sprint or a good retrospective to happen, is a leader should create an environment of trust, which is called safe environment, wherein people can have courage to talk, are open to talk, have trust, respect each other. We respect each other that if some feedback is coming in, we understand the intention is to improve the product. Some of the other problems are retrospective is done, the improvement items are captured well. It was a well defined retrospective, but it's not acted upon. What is the idea of doing the retrospective if the improvement items are not captured and planned for the upcoming sprints? So that if team sees that no, you're doing just the retrospective for the sake of just doing it, and we are not improving on the basis of that, what is the use of doing the retrospective? So idea is take the improvement items, prioritize some of them, put them in the sprint backlog, put them in the sprint backlog for the everyone to work on and improve on that. And the other problem that happened is, even if though we worked on the sprint backlog items as an improvement item, but in the next retrospective, let's talk about those items that we have improved. Let's talk about these were some of the 5 items that we have discussed as improvement items, and we were able to improve on item number 1, item number 2. This is what we have done. So that gives team a trust that they are not only listened, but the retrospective items are acted upon, and we are talking about what we have done together. So that's the value of the overall principles in Agile. And these are the 12 principles in the Agile Manifesto, which is important to understand before we plan to improve or adjust anything with respect to the starting the Agile. Thank you, everyone.